we got an offer that we get to hear the name quite often, Weizong. Yes. We will sadly hear the name less often after this one. They had a lot in Series 3, and then like from then onwards we will occasionally hear the name, which I think is a little bit sad, but we're still gonna have the name pop up. But the last one we have from Weizong was 2896, so very recently. I would even say it was last weekend actually that we had them. Oh yeah, it was the person who travels through time forward and backwards when sleeping, and like of course every version of him in a different timeline is doing the same thing at the same time. Like they're all traveling to a different time. So somebody from the far future, a version of him from the far future could travel to the far past, or the version of him from the far past could travel to the present. The one in the present could travel to tomorrow. The one from tomorrow could travel to like 5 days ago, so on and so forth. It's all like all over the place. It all happens while he's asleep. Yeah, no. Very fascinating idea. And now, Weizong, you wrote Sphere of Influence. Okay. Here we go. Object class. Safe. Euclid revision first proposed 11/30/12, confirmed on the 2nd 4/13. See incident log 2925 A and related documents and formal request for upgrade. Oh, smooth looking glass sphere. Yeah, it's nice. Very round. Special containment procedures. SB2925 is currently contained a dedicated facility for its containment in an airtight reinforced blast resistant chamber appropriate for Epsilon 4 class highly valuable objects protection. Chamber is temperature controlled and completely dark to ensure no changes in energy. Within the system of the room, all interactions with SB2925 must be undertaken with extreme care to ensure no unnecessary changes in energy present within the object. The facility itself is isolated from other containment sites. Due to the high-value nature of the object and a prior intelligence leak that resulted in the object's acquisition by hostile agents, on-site guards patrols consist of 6 rotating shifts of guards along with mobile security forces on standby in the event of a breach of the facility containing SB2925. As of the 11th 30th 12th, no further testing with SB2925 is to take place. Okay, here we go. SB2925 is a glass sphere roughly 10 centimeters in diameter and 1 kilogram in mass that is capable of enormous energy creation and storage. Hadouken! No, just kidding. Can you imagine? SB2925 violates the first law of thermodynamics by mimicking any changes in energy of its surrounding and storing the change in energy within itself. For example, if SB2925 were lifted by 3 meters, resulting in a net gain of 29.4 joules of gravitational potential energy for SB2925, SB2925 is somehow capable of duplicating that energy and storing it within the object. Thus, SB2925 will not only gain 29.4 joules of gravitational energy, but it will also store 29.4 joules of gravitational energy within it. Testing has been unable to identify any forms of energy or energy transfer that SB2925 cannot replicate. SB2925 has to date successfully duplicated the following sources of energy transfer: increasing the surface temperature of SB2925 to duplicate thermal energy, moving SB2925 in order to duplicate kinetic energy, increasing the height of SB2925 in order to duplicate gravitational energy, placing SB2925 in compressed spring in order to duplicate elastic energy, causing sound near SB2925 in order to duplicate sonic energy, shining light on SB2925 in order to duplicate light energy. Notably, changes that would result in the loss of energy for SB2925, example lowering it, do not seem to cause a loss of stored energy. It is also unknown how exactly SB2925 stores the energy it duplicates, as well as any limit in how much energy it can store. Any structural damage that causes SB2925 to fracture, shatter, or otherwise expose the interior contents of SB2925 immediately leads to a violent reaction that results in the release of all energy stored in SCP-2925 in the form of an explosion. Given the ability of SCP-2925 to easily duplicate energy, the release of SCP-2925 stored energy can cause extensive damage. Yeah, you can imagine. Following the release of all stored energy, SCP-2925 reconstitutes itself within 30 minutes of the release of energy, the same site where it was sufficiently damaged. Given that SCP-2925's glass structure does not seem to be any more shallow resistant than normal, on tempered glass, rupturing the object does not require much force, since the surface of SCP-2925 is also quite thin, thus requiring extreme care when handling the object. SCP-2925 was initially discovered by the Foundation agents in 1954 in the Russian Far East region. SCP-2925 was dropped on a high-altitude bombing drill by Soviet bomber pilots under the cover of nuclear weapon testing, though it was in actuality a test of SCP-2925's capabilities. Face itchy from me shaving. Said drop resulted in the release of the equivalent of 13 megatons of TNT, over 370 times the combined output of the release of the atomic bombs. The little boy and fat man on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and nearly matching the Castle Bravo test, the largest nuclear test ever conducted by the United States, which released 15 megatons of TNT. God, we don't need all this. We really don't need all that. In real life, I mean, we don't need all this power. Foundation agents recovered the objects following the test at the center of the blast radius. In addition, the governments of the United States and the Russian Federation have requested control of SCP-2925 on multiple occasions. In particular, the Russian government has made multiple demands for the return of SCP-2925 due to the perceived theft of the object from its predecessor, the Soviet Union. All requests are to be denied by order of the O5 Council. Should diplomatic agents make any mention of SCP-2925, Foundation assets are not to respond in kind. Incident Log A. On the 1st 25th 10th, a group of interest known as the Chaos Insurgency launched an attack on Site-139 in order to acquire several SCP objects. During the raid, 5 researchers and 14 guards were killed. 10 researchers and 20 guards were also wounded in the attack. Chaos Insurgency casualties were estimated at over 40 killed and wounded. During the attack, SCP-2925 was lost and presumed stolen by the insurgency at the time. A Foundation assault of an insurgency base on the 11th, 29th, 12th resulted in the recapture of the SCP-2925 along with the original research notes concerning SCP-2925. An interrogation of an insurgency researcher included the following exchange. It sounds rather dangerous. Yeah, no, it is. Like, the fact that if you just roll around, it stores that energy into itself, and if you accidentally break it, it just explodes. Yeah, no, I'm good. Interrogation specialist Maximilian Watson captured asset Chaos Insurgency researcher Torvald Bengtsson. The following took place roughly 2 hours into the interrogation session. So, then on the different question, SB-2925, the glass sphere. How does it play into things? It was a high priority target in the raid several years ago. I think the value is quite obvious. How were you planning on using it? I cannot say. You and I both know that's a lie. Are you going to tell me the truth, or do I have to ask again? We're planning on filling it with energy and using it like a bomb. Fly it over a base, you shoot down the plane, the sphere falls, no more base. It's a reusable weapon of mass destruction. The use is obvious. So how much energy have you filled that thing up with right now? Of that I could not say. Perhaps as the energy of a hand grenade, it could have enough to blow up a house or a neighborhood, or even a city. Maybe it simply has the energy of a kitchen toaster. I was not privy to such things. Further interrogation led to the conclusive answers on how much energy is present in SCP-2925. To this date, no attempts to gauge how much energy SCP-2925 has stored have succeeded. A formal request for upgrade to Euclid status was submitted at this point. So no playing with SCP-2925 then, no. If you don't want to like blow up an entire city. Related documents seized from the Chaos Insurgency indicate that the group of interest has spent considerable resources in order to conduct research into the origin of SCP-2925. The insurgency Identify the original researcher in charge of SCP-2925 as a Dr. Yevgeny Golovkin, a former Group Beta scientist. Golovkin excavated the object from an Aztec site in central Mexico, as well as discovering a previously unknown codex. Insurgency personnel interrogated Dr. Golovkin and seized all of his research on the object. Relevant portions are compiled here, along with other insurgency documents. Dr. Golovkin's notes, page 34. Agents were finally able to recover the codex, which is a minor miracle considering how many of these were destroyed. The codex confirms my research that the orb is indeed a religious piece and not a weapon, as Dr. Zyuganov believed. Interestingly, the codex includes a reprint of the image of the supreme deity Tezcatlipoca from the earlier discovered Codex Borgia, and it notes that the disc on the chest of the deity is in fact the orb. A reproduction of the image mentioned in Dr. Golovkin's research notes the shimmering orb present on the deity's chest. I'm kind of wondering if this is supposed to be like Shibalanke, because Shibalanke also has an orb in he's a Mayan god who basically is really good at football. Let's see if it's supposed to be Shibalanke. Also, Shibalanke has like a shield and low darts and all that stuff. That's why I'm thinking if this is like maybe him. This would suggest that the theory on the orb's religious significance in sacrifice is worth some further investigation. Look it up. Who are you? What's your other name? Black Tesla. Okay, no, it's not Shibalanke. Unless, hold on. Okay, let me just. Yeah, there's not really much here. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, I think the specifically mine only. Yeah, no, okay. So it's not. They're not the same. Good. Let's go on. Insurgency interrogation of Dr. Golovkin, previously portions redacted for brevity. Tell us more about the orb. If it's not a weapon, then what is it? You have heard of Aztec sacrifices. Sure. Freaky-looking priest cut off someone's beating heart. What's your point? Sacrifices in all religious ceremonies serve the same purpose. Killing a god or a person is intended to be an offering of the energy of the creature itself. The bigger the creature, sacrifice, the more energy you offer, leading to a bigger response from what common people call deities. Why does a god care about sacrifice or energy? Energy is the basic unit of currency for the entire universe. Every action requires some form of it, and all entities are bound to the requirements of energy consumption, even gods. Offering energy is a way of currying favor. So you're suggesting that this orb is a sacrificial centerpiece, a bargaining chip that makes a man the equal of a god. Insurgency Internal Memorandum to BPAR 82 SNKE 03 ZEJ 056 AAAA 01. Subject concerning the object known as the orb. Body intelligence recovered from Dr. Golovkin and Codex match up with ongoing research on the object. Following 4 weeks of energy collection, researchers were able to make contact and sustain a connection to trans-dimensional entity Epsilon. Negotiations for an exchange are underway, but the lawyer tells me we should be able to get the primary target, This deal should make both sides very happy, to say the least. Formal request for upgrade. Dr. Sonia Oland submitted the following request for upgrade. This document was recaptured from the Chaos Insurgency along with more intensive research on the subject from our own personnel have yielded a few conclusions concerning SCP-2925. 1. Dr. Golovkin's hypothesis has been tentatively confirmed, as tests have concluded that there is evidence of anomalous reality manipulation or extra-dimensional transfer of energy/matter using this object at some point. 2. Historical research of the object has revealed that it belonged to a minor Aztec tribe whose number implies that they could have never used the objects efficiently enough for major sacrifices. 3. We have no idea whether or not the insurgency was able to successfully complete the transfer mentioned in the internal memo. If they did, we have no idea with whom the transfer was completed and what they gained in return for their offering. On the basis of conclusion 3, this leaves us with two possibilities. 1. If the insurgency was not able to finish their transfer, we are left with an object of enormous potential value to the insurgency, whoever they contacted, which makes this an enormous risk for the containment breach by external actors, to say nothing of the fact that this is still a thin glass sphere that potentially contains enough energy to obliterate an entire base. 2. The possibility that worries me more is that the insurgency was able to complete the transfer. It would leave us dealing with an extra-dimensional deity who now has been given a significant amount of power by the insurgency. Even worse, the thought of whatever could possibly have given in return to the insurgency does not exactly paint a bright picture. Requesting an immediate upgrade to Euclid status, along with cessation of all testing. Following anonymous vote of the O5 Council, not sure why the O5 Council here is red text. Okay. SCP-2925 was upgraded to Euclid status. Subject moved to dedicated facility under current containment procedure. My god, you have to like be so extremely careful handling this one. Like just it being packed away and maybe like being jostled inside a car on the while delivering back to one of the Foundation location is already like too much of energy storing that it does. Like literally any act on it, it will store energy somehow, right? Like if it's suddenly getting warm, it stores heat. If you roll around, it stores kinetic energy, and so on and so forth. It's like you have to be so extremely cautious with that thing. I assume you can just like use as little energy as possible and then expel the energy that was already stored up. Otherwise, how are you gonna do anything with this? How are you gonna do anything with this if like anything you do will make it store energy anyway?